Yeah, we did. Oh, okay.
Xbox, good. I was so happy to see my grade the other day.
That's good.
I got a 30 out of 30 on my quiz.
That's a good start.
Oh, none of these are the quiz. Or that?
No, we still got a few people to take it, so I can't pass that back yet. Those are just some papers that you guys have picked up at some point, so. I'd rather them be sorted in your binder than with me. I don't have any use for them.
Well, you can always look up my answers because I use them as an answer key for you.
Yeah, I could do that. I have most answer keys already done though, so.
So, how was your, let's see, Tuesday?
How was my Tuesday?
Yep.
It was fine.
Good.
Tuesday I had my calculus classes go, and calculus is a little bit more.
Yeah.
I have to.
You should give Ella, Lauren, and Sophie a bad grade.
Okay.
Thank you.
Why?
Because they're my friends.
Okay.
Oh, I didn't see that. Never mind.
I just say Sudoku. So, whatever I said the first time.
Alright, and then you start thinking about it.
Yeah. Braden? Too bad. I got a better grade than you on the quiz.
What grade? What'd you get?
What did you get?
I got 29.
30. Braden?
Wait, what quiz?
Sorry.
The English quiz?
I got a 30. You got 29.
What quiz?
I
The
don't.
quiz we had last
A lot
time.
of papers.
Chris. Oh, what was your average score last
Don't
season?
call me Chris. My average score last year was like a 62.
No, I mean.
It's a new year.
Oh, it's like a 33. I got a 19%. No, my lowest one.
Yeah.
That's,
Like 3.
no, it was a 6 out of 30.
Yeah, and then you also had 8.
I got 30 out of 30 last quiz.
Good job.
And guess what he got?
What?
He got a 29.
I got a 5 on.
I
Didn't stick with the other.
He's happy because he finally did better than the other.
I do better.
Can you consistently do it?
Yes, I'm going to consistently do it. Hey.
All right. So there were 4 handouts I had for you guys to pick up this afternoon, and 2 of them together will make up 63. So if you can't tell which ones go together, then you can just hold off a bit.
I got a 30 maybe. Alright.
And
I have an 100 in this class, and I want to keep it. For as long as I know I can.
Okay, so first thing we're going to do is handout 63 is the one that is 2 pages, and majority of that is going to be more practice of what we ended class with last time, talking about what a limit was and how to find it from the graph. So I'm going to do a quick little reteach on that and then have you practice some of that and then extend it with some properties, although you'll be basically doing the same thing. Then on 64, we're going to move into the next piece of that. So 64 is a quick couple of example of notes, so it's documented well in your binder. And then 65 is the page that you will get some practice on your own for questions like 64. All right, so in 63,
Are these 2 pages 62?
this is the one that is 63. So I've got 2 graphs up here. So we do have to be careful. The left graph is f of x, the right graph is g of x. And again, not normally when you do limit questions do you have a graph, but that is certainly the first type of question you need to know. So I'm going to do questions 1, 2, and 3. 4, 5, 6 go together, and 7, 8, 9 go together. I'm going to do all of those as examples and just to re-explain the stuff that we had talked about last time. And then I'm going to ask you to try 10 through 18, and we'll go over them and make sure that all of that is clear. So really questions 1, 2, and 3 all kind of go together here. So again, you got to pay attention to which function you're looking at. 1, 2, and 3 want you to look at the left graph. And all of these are asking us to look at or around where x is approaching 3. So I really only care about this part of my graph, a little bit to the left of 3 and a little bit of right of 3. None of the rest of the graph really matters for the first 3 questions. So when it says as x approaches 3 and it puts a little minus sign up here, what did that minus sign mean? Okay, so from the left. So you should take an x value smaller than 3 and then start plugging in x values closer and closer to 3 and look at the y value that you're approaching. So as you get close to x equals 3, y gets closer to 0. So wouldn't matter if that point wasn't there or if the point was way up here. Limits do not care what's happening at that instant. In fact, I could completely block out what's happening at x equals 3 and it shouldn't make this question any easier or harder. We don't care that the point is there. Alright, and then the plus, what does the plus do instead?
To the right, or from the right.
Okay, so from the right, we're going to pick an x value slightly bigger than 3, inch our way back towards x equals 3, and look at the y value that it approaches. And then if the limit from the left is equal to the limit from the right, then if it doesn't say left or right, that means both. If they were both approaching 0, then that limit on question 3 would be 0. What do we put if what?
If they're not the same.
Then we would say it does not exist. It has, the left and the right have to approach the same thing. Yeah, D and E for does not exist. Or you can write out does not exist, it's fine too. Okay, 4, 5, and 6 all go together and they have to do with g of x. So notice I'm now looking at the right graph. So from the left of x equals 1, we're looking at this part of the graph. From the left, it looks like it's approaching a y value of what? I'd agree. Now notice it doesn't even hit 1. If you're paying attention, there's a hole there. But limits do not care about that. They're just what y value is it getting closer to. But from the right, what is it? -1. And if the limit from the left is not the same as the limit from the right, then this limit cannot exist because this limit has to be both. If it doesn't have a direction, it has to be both, and you need the same number. You can't have 2 answers for that. Okay, last one before I ask you to try the bottom 9. So g of x from 4 as x approaches 4. So we're looking at this part of this graph. So as x approaches 4 from the left, what does it look like the y value is approaching?
Infinity.
Very good. It's going up forever, so that's infinity. From the right, also going up forever, infinity. And if these two are the same, then if it doesn't indicate a direction, then that would be your limit there. So a couple things I want to say about this. One is on a test or a quiz, I'm perfectly happy if you put that there, but I will tell you in AP Calculus on that AP exam, it's pretty much 50-50 on multiple choice. Half the time they'll say infinity, and half the time they'll say does not exist. So make sure you put that on your notes. The reason why those are both acceptable is infinity and negative infinity are concepts. They're not really numbers. So sometimes if you don't know what a graph is, but you know it's either going up to infinity or down to negative infinity, it's just safer to say does not exist because that covers both of them. Also, and I won't go too deep into this, but this is very important. You may not realize it, but before limits ever existed, this was the first time in mathematics that anyone could ever have an equation that said equal to infinity. So we could always say things can approach infinity or whatnot, but until limits were documented and published and used by other mathematicians, never could they make an equation equal to infinity. So of course a lot of later mathematics is built upon that, so that was kind of a big deal. Okay, so use those examples, and now notice 10, 11, and 12 have nothing to do with each other. I had these kind of structured just to kind of show you where they kind of built up, but some of these are f of x, some are g of x, different numbers, some are from the left only, some are from the right only, and some are from both. But take a couple minutes and see if you can get at least 8 of those correct. 8 or more would be pretty good. Now I'll give you a chance to ask questions, and what we're doing on the next page is very close to the same. At least the work will be close to the same, so it will be important that you ask if you need me to go over some of these with you. Good. Focus your energy to questions 10 through 18. Okay. And you checked them? As you finish, if you would compare your answers with mine and see if there's any of those you're going to want to ask about. But I'll give you another minute to get caught up to the rest of us.
Just a quick stretch,
Okay, of those 9, any of those you want me to go over you disagree with or not sure how I came up with?
Do these get harder?
Of course.
Oh, great.
Okay, so on to page 2, where we make it one step harder. So now we're going to introduce some properties here. But this whole page are properties that basically work the way that students tend to expect them to if I just ask them to guess. So what I mean by that, I've got them all typed up here. But if you wanted to find the limit of f of x plus g of x, so you're adding two things, you can do those two limits separately and then add your answers together.
Oh, that's so hard.
Yeah, it's not hard, it's just you need to see it. So subtract, work them separately and then subtract. Multiply, work them separately and then multiply. Divide, work them separately and then divide. Add, subtract, multiply, and divide. That's pretty much how everyone guesses those would work, and that's how those will work. And then there's one more on here that we'll use today. This one's kind of unusual, but if you want a limit and you've got some number times a function, like 3 times your function, that's just going to make your limit 3 times bigger. So you can just pull that out and multiply then. Okay, so for this page, I've got 3 examples I'm going to do. And if you could do the previous page and you can do add, subtract, multiply, and divide, then you can do this page. It's just that the questions are a little bit longer, so you do have to be a little bit more careful about your work. But when I look at this, now you do not have to write this down for every question, but I do ask that you please do this for question 1, because I think it is good for your notes. What the property up top says is that you can do the limit as x approaches -1 of f of x, then the limit as x approaches -1 of g of x, and since this says plus, we'll add those two answers together to get our final answer. So, looking above, as x approaches -1 from the left and the right of f of x, I get 0. And then as x approaches -1 from the left and right of g of x, I'm getting -4. And since it says plus in the middle, I'm going to add those together, and my final answer there would be -4. So it's harder in the sense that you've got to do 2 for 1, but that's really it. If you can do the other page, then you can do this page. Question number 20. If I did the limit as x approaches -4 of g of x, that looks to be about 5. Now, none of these graphs are trying to trick you, so if you're not sure if it's like 2 or a little bit bigger than 2, just assume it's 2. Just go with the easy answer there. The limit as x approaches -4 of f of x looks to be about -1. And this one said subtract, so I'm going to subtract those to get my final answer of 6. And then a multiplication one. So the limit as x approaches 0 of f of x looks to be -2. The limit as x approaches 0 of g of x looks to be 1. And since this says multiply, multiply those two before you get your final answer. Okay, ready to try some? Okay, so the bottom 9 here, if you would try these, please. Some add, some subtract, some multiply, 1 or 2 divides, but see what you get. And I'm going to lag behind you just a little bit, but I will slowly start to put up my answers so that you can check when you do finish. And same thing, I'd be happy to work any or all of these. I will ask that we talk about 2 of them, because I think 2 of them are worth discussing, but then plus whatever else y'all want to discuss. Take another minute to try to finish up and then check the 7 that I have up. Okay, of the 7 questions I have up, any of those you would like me to work out before we discuss 26 and 30? Okay, so on 30, I got an answer of, I didn't have this right up there, but I think it should be 4.
Really? That's the answer.
Never mind. I'm looking at the wrong thing.
4 times 4, right?
16, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so for this one, I said this in the property up above, but this was the first one that came up. If this is 4 times g, that means you get to just multiply 4 times the limit part. So,
I just didn't see that. I saw 3.
Gross.
you're too busy looking at your phone.
No, it was just like the curve.
I did the same thing. Oh, that's true. Like, it tripped me up. I thought it was 3, 4.
Okay, I can see why you would think it was 3. If you thought it was 3,
You kind of have to
then you-
eyeball where the middle is.
Draw these lines.
yeah, I don't want you to miss it because of that. Okay, what about 26? When you did the limit as x approaches 4 of f of x, what did that come out to be?
2.
I said 1, but
Oh.
okay. And then the limit as x approaches 4 of g of x.
0
Neither of those two.
plus. Oh.
Does not exist. From the left, it's approaching 1, but from the right, it's not approaching anything. It doesn't exist from the right. That's not an arrow, that's a point. So if the limit from the left doesn't equal the limit from the right, then that cannot exist. So overall, we'll just say does not exist. There are some kind of tricky calculus questions where sometimes you might have something like 1 times does not exist, and you might be able to work it out and come up with a numerical answer, but we're not going to look at any of those type. Okay, before I move on, any questions about this? Again, I feel like these are the ones that you probably don't, I mean, you might look over it for 30 seconds before we get to our next major quiz, which is still not for a few classes away. But I don't think it's anything you need to worry about. Usually it works out the way you expect. Okay, and then on to the last page. So this is also part of this handout. There's one more property I need you to see, and this one is not intuitive to most people. So a few people would guess it, but they're usually pretty unsure. And this is if you want to take the limit of a composite function. So that's when you have a function plugged into another function. So notice g of x is being plugged into f of x. So what you have to do is you have to take the limit of the inside part, and all of this is going to give you a number. And then you're going to plug that into the outside function, not do the limit a second time, but you're just going to do something like f of that number or g of that number, which is really like using a point. That's not going to be calculus at that point. So using these two graphs, 31 through 33, I've got them kind of split up. I'm trying to break it into as many parts as I can at first, just to help you see where it's coming from. But if I was trying to answer something like question 33, I would split it up into these two parts, 31 and 32. The limit of a composite function, you should find the limit of the inside part, which we practiced doing this last time and today, so that would be 0. You plug that in to the outside function, and what does f of 0 mean?
What the point is of 0.
Okay, close, not exactly point, but the x value is 0, the y value. So the y value on f when x is 0, and when you do both of those things, that's how you find the limit of a composite function. Limit of the inside gives you a number. Do that on 34. Looks like that should be 2. You plug that into the outer function, and then again, you guys have been seeing this for years, but just to be clear, it's nothing to do with calculus. F of 2 means on the function f, when x is 2, what is y? And that looks to be 1. And when you do both of those things, that's how you come up with an answer for something like 36. Okay, last example, 39. If I was trying to answer this, now notice g is not always the inside function, f's not always the outside function, so you can't just like memorize these. That would be a bad strategy anyway. But you should do the limit of the inside part, which is what we've been practicing. Take that number and plug it into the outside function. Then evaluate that point. And on g, when x is 2, it looks like y is 1. And when you do both of those things, that gives you the limit of your composite function. It's not a hard process, but it is certainly one that, you know, just doesn't come naturally. It is one that I'm sure we'll put it on the review, and you may want to look back at these, but as long as you know the process, you can certainly do it, but it does take some practice. All right, to finish up with this handout, 2 new graphs. If you would try these bottom 3, and notice 40 and 41 do not lead up to 42. They're completely separate. So try those and see what you get. We'll make sure we're okay there, and then we'll move on to the next part, which will be similar to what we do for the next week or so. Okay, so you certainly don't have to break it into multiple parts like I had typed up for the previous questions. But if you're missing some or you're not sure what you should be doing mentally, then I guess it does help. So that's what I went ahead and wrote those down to help you see that. So for 40, I would find the limit of the inside part, which looks to be -2. I'm going to plug that into the outside function, and f of -2 gives me my final answer. For 41, limit of the inside part looks to be 0. Plug that into the outside function, and g of 0 looks to be -2. Still with me? And so the limit as x approaches -6, well, I'm sure you're tempted to say does not exist, but why does this one exist?
Just a zero arrow.
Right, this arrow means it's going that direction forever. So even though -6 is not on the graph, you should still be able to see that that's going to be 2. And f of 2 is your final answer, -2. So a good skill to review before you're quizzed or test on it, but doesn't take a ton of practice. As long as you understand the process, you should be fine there. Anything about this handout y'all want to ask before we move on? Okay, so these are great if you have a graph, and sometimes that's true. On the actual AP Calculus exam, there's probably 1 or 2 questions tops that give you a graph like that. A lot of times with limits, if you're going to be working with them, you have a function only, and you may not know what the graph looks like. So that is where our focus is going to be for the next few classes. But 64 is going to be the first one. So notice on this limit question for number 1, it doesn't say the limit of f of x or g of x or h of x. Instead, it just tells me what the function is, x squared. So in this rare instance, you should know what x squared looks like. So I guess if you cared enough, you could try to sketch x squared. And if you did that, then you could approach it the way we talked about on the other handout. As x approaches 2, it looks like the y value from the left and the right approach 9. And that's a fine strategy if you know what that function looks like, but a lot of times you don't. You probably don't know what 4 over x looks like for question 2. I really doubt you know what x squared minus 16 over x minus 4 looks like, at least not with some work done. So instead we have this process that we like to use called direct substitution. And direct substitution just means take this x value and plug it in. So 3 squared gives us 9. And if you get a real number, 9 is a real number, you can assume that that's your answer. Unless the question is just trying to be tricky, which would not happen until like way, way later calculus. You can assume that is your answer. If we try direct substitution for number 2, and I plug this in, we get 4 divided by 0. And what happens when you try to take 4 and divide it by 0? Okay, so 4 divided by 0 is not possible. What do you think the answer to this limit question is? Does not exist. You cannot divide by 0.
Would we be marked off if we put undefined?
No, that's fine. Okay, and then we get into the interesting ones. This is where things are going to change quite a bit. So if I plug in 4 into this, what does my numerator go to?
0.
Okay, if I plug 4 into the denominator, what does it go to? And 0 over 0 is something that we call indeterminate form. This breaks some of the stuff that you've learned about mathematics. This is one of the first problems that calculus tries to tackle, because you've had teachers that said 0 divided by anything is 0, You've had teachers that have said a number divided by 0 is undefined. And what happens when you normally take something and divide it by itself? So the problem with 0 over 0 is it could be anything. It might be 0, could be undefined, it could be 1, it could be 5, it could be 12 halves, it could be anything. And short of knowing what this graph looks like, we need a better process than just direct substitution. So we start off with direct substitution, but if it's an indeterminate form like this, we have to have a way to make this look different without changing the size so that direct substitution will work. And there's a handful of different things that you can try, which is what we'll be doing over the next couple weeks. But today we are going to focus on the most common one, which is factoring. So if you get if you get a number, that's your answer. But if you get 0 over 0, you need to factor the numerator and denominator. You need something to cancel out. If something's not canceling, then you're doing something wrong. And as soon as something cancels out, then direct substitution should work. So you plug it into what's left over, and the limit to that question would be 8. Again, keep in mind what that means so that we're not just getting answers here. If I knew what that graph looked like, I could tell you from the left side as x approaches 4 and the right side as x approaches 4, the y values are getting closer to 8. So I know a little bit about what that graph looks like from that. Okay, and so let's look at 2 more examples, and then we'll look at one together on the next page, and I'm going to talk about how to connect that with what we talked about last time in the first half of class today, and using that as a way to check your answers. So if I got this question, number 1 here, I would try direct substitution, but I noticed that it makes the numerator go to 0 and the denominator go to 0, and 0 over 0 can be anything. It breaks all of the rules about 0 divided by a number, number divided by 0, anything divided by itself. We actually have to do some work to this. So as time goes on, we're going to build some skills to this, but today, only factoring. So sometimes that's going to be the difference of 2 squares like this one. Sometimes GCF, sometimes trinomials. And then after we factored it, what did we need to happen? You need something to cancel before direct substitution will work. But as soon as something cancels, you can plug it into what's left over, and if you were left with a real number, then you can assume that that is the limit. Okay, one more on this page, and then we will move on and let you get a little bit of practice in, and I'll stand out of your way at that point. So direct substitution, I hope that I don't get 0 over 0, because it's easier if I don't. It's less work. Like question 1, I plugged it in, got a number, and I'm done. But if you plug it in and all of this goes to 0 and all of this goes to 0, then we have to get creative in the way that this looks. We need to make this look different without changing its size. So we saw a difference of 2 squares up here. Looks like this one is factoring trinomials. So it is great if you can do guess and check, because that is quicker. But if you need to slow down to do your factoring correctly, then so be it. It's more important that you factor them correctly than it is to try to do them correctly. And I guess if you want to try direct substitution here, you can, but you're still going to get 0 over 0. You need something to cancel out first before you plug it in. But then after you cancel something out and you do direct substitution, if you're left with a real number, you can assume that that is your limit. So a couple things before we move on to the next page. This is really a very, of course, just one example, but this is very, very, very representative of how calculus goes. Calculus, normally you learn about something new, like what is a limit. You learn some notation and what this is asking you to do. The calculus steps are usually not too bad. What I would call the calculus steps here is knowing to plug in 5 at the beginning and end of this question. That's not difficult to do. But what is difficult about calculus is there's so much algebra that you're expected to know. So and today we're focused on factoring, but in calculus, one question you need to be able to factor, and then the next question, do you remember this logarithm property? And then the next question, do you remember unit circle? And then the next question, hey, can you simplify a complex fraction? And that's where calculus can be tricky, not because of the calculus concepts or the calculus steps, but the algebra that you've seen before, adding common denominators and stuff like that. It is just very demanding in that sense. So even though we have more time in pre-cal, so we can kind of focus and just try to do like one at a time. So today factoring, but it gives you an idea of where calculus steps don't take long and they're not too difficult to understand, but you do have to be able to actually execute with the previous algebra that you learned. Okay, I want to look at one more of these with you, just because I also want to give you a tip on how to check your answers. And I don't expect you to do this on all of them, but I do want you to do it on a few of them. So again, sometimes direct substitution is going to work out fine, so you have to start off with that. But it looks like question 1 gives me 0 over 0. So only when it's 0 over 0 do you have to dig in and do some more work. So today we're focused on factoring. So that could be like GCF in the numerator or trinomial in the denominator. And direct substitution is never going to work until you get some of these factors to cancel. If 5 is making the numerator and denominator 0, then there should be a factor of x minus 5 in each of those. And then after something cancels, what do we do next? Okay, so try the direct substitution again. And if you get a real number, that should be your limit. Not saying anything different than I didn't say on the last one. Except now what I'm going to say is, a lot of time, 99% of the time in calculus, you either don't have time or you don't have a calculator, but you guys do sometimes. So if you did not feel confident about this one, to make a connection to what we did on the other handout, there's nothing stopping you from graphing this function. Now we're not doing this as an answer getting technique, but as a check. You could graph this function. It looks like this. And then you can just focus on the limit as x approaches 5 visually, which we've already practiced. So my calculator is smart enough to know that x equals 5 doesn't exist. That's why there's a little bit of a gap there. But from the right, can you see that it's approaching a y value of 3? And from the left, it's approaching a y value of 3. So that limit should be 3. So again, I don't expect you to graph all of those. That's a lot of questions, but at least do it a couple times so that you see the connection between what we did on the other handout versus what we're doing on here. Okay? All right. So go ahead and start on these. I am going to ask that you do them in order, please. So try 2 before you try 3, before you try 4. That way, if I need to help you with a couple while you're here, we will all have basically looked at the same questions. So all of these will either work from direct substitution or from factoring, one or the other. Okay, and I will check back in about 10 to 15 minutes and help you out with the ones that seem harder to you. What?
I accidentally did them.
Oh, that's okay. I mean,
Elbows out. Nice job. At least I
it'll
did
save you
that.
time later, but start doing them in order from here, just in case you have questions.
Yes, sir. I did the same thing. One side, instead of the other. You did it too.
It's not that big of an issue. It's just that if you're like trying question 17 and need help with it, I don't really want to do that until everyone's tried it, and most people won't because it's to the far right. So
D and E spelled backwards is end,
Wow.
so you're at the end of the problem.
okay,
You sure are smart.
since it's written backwards, maybe you're at the start of the problem.
No.
Maybe we're at the end.
How is that a proper, like,
Do what?
Sen, how is that a repeat of what you just said?
That's not bad. Did you get D and E?
No. 1/7 minus 1/7 0. Why does it have to be 0?
Do we always have to factor it, or?
It just, if it's that, 0 over 0.
I don't like when it says 0 over 0.
No, it isn't.
0 over 0 is more work.
Yep. More brain power.
Oh.
So I like to do a bunch of work. in
Okay,
my
I
head.
didn't see it was cubed. My bad.
This is too much to do in your head.
No.
Unless it just, some of these, like, I see one where you could just get the answer right away. There's a couple. If they don't give you 0 over 0, then sometimes you could do them in your head, but.
Now I'm gonna try 3 in my head. Probably.
Yeah, don't do that.
Oh.
I mean, you can try it, but then you need to show your work when you're.
That makes me mad. Did you get negative 1%?
Is 3 3?
Well, I took out 10.
I was thinking more like 6, but.
And then on the bottom, it was, I took that X also. Minus 3 cancel. So X plus 3. Shit, dude, does not exist for a 5.
Yep. Yep.
Yep. Did it in my head. with help. With the
It's more work to do it in your head,
But like,
because then you have to restart and do it on paper. The lazy way is to just do it on paper from the beginning.
I got stabbed
Really?
by
I hate
my
writing.
mechanical pencil.
And I figured out why. It's because when I was younger, if I got in trouble, I had to write. So I just grew up associating writing with work and
I guess that makes sense.
4 is no way I can do it in my head. Well, it's 0 minus 0 plus 8.
I got 6 for 6.
8. But you said it was 0.
No, I said I meant like it's
That
0.
got me 1,
So 0 squared is 0.
-3, -12.
You got it wrong.
-2, which is.
The answer is 8.
I know.
But you said it's 0.
Oh, I see. Thank you.
You lied.
Yeah, -12.
I got in trouble once in like 4th grade and I had to write 100 sentences.
Really?
Yeah.
I did that once.
And then I didn't do them all, so then I had to do another 100.
Oh.
I had to write the entire, because like when I was younger, I had like bad handwriting, and I still do. But I would get in trouble and I would have to write the entire alphabet like 27 times on paper.
I remember when it was hard to
I don't know
write,
how that
like-
helps you be a better writer, though.
I don't know.
I
That's my
remember
grandma.
in kindergarten when it was hard to like write all the numbers to 100.
I used to have this whole like.
I think those
poster
are
board.
good exercises for y'all to learn patience. To just take a few minutes and, you know what I mean? Just like collect yourselves, do something repetitively.
In kindergarten, we had a project where we had to put 100 butterflies, or like little sticker insects, on a poster and count them out by 10. It had like 10 rows of 10.
Okay,
I still have that poster somewhere. Saw it like a couple months ago.
that's good.
Yeah.
I don't remember anything from kindergarten.
Well, you're also like, I don't know how many years older. You're like 32? 36? You're in your 30s, right? Please say yes.
34.
34, 35, 36, 37, 38, 39, 31, 30,
I'll be 40 in September.
40. So 39. You didn't even
Yeah.
shake your head or anything. You were
Well, you guessed everything. If I had said yes, you wouldn't know which one I was saying yes to anyway.
39 divided by 16. It's a good question. You're just a couple years older than me. Or like 23.
I mean, I think that means I've been alive twice as long.
Yeah, over twice, yeah. Definitely. So that's
Just take out
twice
four.
the amount of information, or twice the life experience.
That is true.
So twice the amount to remember.
But I'm sure we have different life experiences too. I'm sure there's some things you've experienced that I haven't, and some things I've experienced that you haven't. That's why you can learn from everybody.
-6 for 8.
Interesting.
6 for 8.
Zero squared is 1, right?
0 squared?
Yeah,
Well, 0 squared means 0 times 0, so
yeah. Right?
0.
Oh.
0 times anything is 0.
Look,
Wait, 0 times 0.
I thought 0 squared was 1.
Nothing times nothing is nothing.
If you have 0 groups of 0 bananas, you've got 0 bananas.
I like bananas.
Then what was it that, like, you get 1, but it has a 0 in it?
What? 0 squared?
Anything to the 0 power is 1. Like
Oh,
3
maybe
to the
that's what
0
it is.
is 1.
Oh my god.
So it's just
No.
over 0, so it's.
I've never been OTK'd in cup pong. I've done it to other people, paintball, it's not cup pong.
Oh, buzzer.
So did he?
I didn't know what 0.0 was.
What?
What 0.0 was.
You didn't know one of the questions on the
You should be going, all
quiz.
those who listen, all those who don't know what 0.0
Imagine getting
is.
29 out of 30 on a quiz.
Cause that's a good score.
Imagine not getting 30 out of 30.
I can't imagine.
It was really easy.
Imagine getting it a way you can't because you did it.
But, so, I got some pretty better movies last semester.
He's so salty.
Yeah, he is. Wow, you're so salty.
He is? Dude, you're the one that's like fighting him.
He's probably
Yeah.
salty because Christian will ever leave him alone.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. Whose side are you on now? The
There's
freshman
no
sophomore
sides.
person?
Definitely blue side.
He's definitely a freshman in pre-cal.
Whoa, yeah. There is a freshman in pre-cal, his name's Maddox.
More?
Yeah. No,
Not a freshman.
no, Maddox, he's on the soccer team.
I don't think you're supposed to be in pre-cal.
You can be 10. Yeah, you can do that.
You could.
Yeah,
Probably.
Allison did it.
I did it, but I had to
There's-
retake it 3 years.
There's 10th graders in calculus.
I got held back 2
Yeah, I
years,
mean-
so technically a freshman.
Let's make it a
A
4.
lot of them skip to it.
Okay.
But I've
What
never
about
heard of someone in
geometry
pre-cal
after
who's in.
What about him? Yeah.
That's in 10th grade?
That's
Someone in
ninth
ninth
grade.
Oh, 9th
I
grade?
don't think that's supposed to happen.
Why?
You still gotta take, you gotta take algebra 2,
Correct.
which is not in,
Well-
which is most of the time not
That's
in,
so hard.
in
Well,
junior high.
You go to Huss Hall, I think.
No, we here at the high school, you can the only classes you're allowed to double up in is geometry and algebra 2. If you're willing to do honors geometry, you can do honors algebra 2 at the same year. And some students do that.
You know Will Frost?
Uh-huh.
He tried doing it. They didn't like tell him to stop. Like he doubled up in algebra 2 and pre-cal for like a little over like half the first semester.
That's funny. I just
Wow.
didn't catch it.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go ask you what it was.
Okay, back to work.
And then when
Is this homework?
I figured it out.
It's gonna be because you're not getting enough done.
That's alright.
No,
No,
you can
it's
work
not
on it
fair.
in class.
I'm only on 6.
That's fine.
It's like a third of the way done.
Well, let's see how far you are in 25 minutes.
For 7? Yeah, -1. I'm so good at 8 ball.
Plenty in bingo.
I don't have your phone number.
What would you like?
I guess.
Because I want to play you in bingo.
Okay.
Oh, that is actually real clever.
Going in order here, has anyone found one that they would benefit from some help on?
Hold on. Yes.
Are you done yet?
Oh, I'm doing it. I'll also do it.
You gonna finish in time?
Hmm?
Okay.
I'm almost halfway. Well, I am halfway done, I guess, because I accidentally skipped the 13.
Did you check a few of them from graphing?
Hmm?
Did you check a few of them by graphing?
Like in the calculator?
Uh-huh.
I forgot to do that, sorry.
Just a couple is fine. The ones you feel less confident about would be good.
Oh, so good. I beat him by 6 shots. What is Wait, can you cancel x from x squared and just get x on top?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, it's just x times x. So it's just x plus 1. It would be 7. Did you get 7 for that one?
I got 14.
Did you get 14?
I don't know. Nah.
Look. That's what I did.
So 2 times 7.
No, No, I canceled the X when I squared down here.
Yeah, and then this X is still there. There's one X.
It just
It's not
turns-
X squared, it just
Yeah, I
turns
know,
to
it
X.
turns to X.
Yeah, so 2.
Oh.
Yep.
Oh, okay, yeah. 14. Oops. Let's play mini golf, he says again, as he wants by 6 things.
You narrating.
Yes. This is all I've been doing all day.
Sounds like a great,
Hey, I've been-
cost of your time.
Hey, I've also been like doing good in chemistry.
Is that why you stayed up till 3 AM on Sunday?
That was a push.
You just have to be better than everyone.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just saying that's all like I've been doing in the group chat. Like, look at this. Look at these logs.
Did you get that something just for 8?
How are you doing?
8? Negative 6.
My secret? Hey,
I lost.
that's fine.
What? Oh gosh, Game Pigeon is breaking.
What's your plan?
Or just like messages is breaking.
This weekend, all of each is coming out.
It's not gonna be fun.
It's
No,
gonna
it's
be
not.
so much fun. We're gonna do so good. We're gonna get first chair.
That's good.
I don't know about that.
Are you the best, whatever instrument player you are?
Races.
Racist.
Racings. Racist.
It's 2 seniors and then me, a freshman,
And then Caleb.
Caleb, Diego, and then a freshman, and then another freshman.
Let's take our bets on
Wait, what
which,
do you mean another freshman?
charity
It's just
can.
two. It's just Josiah.
Who else going into second place?
I'm gonna say
Oh,
second
no.
chair.
Well,
Ryan
oh,
Hall.
yeah, yeah.
Right. I'm gonna put my bets on second chair. Who you're gonna have.
Next year? Or at home?
I mean,
I have faith.
I'm thinking. I don't think I'll make it because I
Yeah.
don't really do music at all.
the snare one is so hard. I just hope they don't choose the stupid parts of it.
What are the stupid ones?
Jingle bells.
6 and 7.
Those are the fun parts.
I don't like doing the hippopotamus into the tape.
That's all I want for Christmas.
Into the
Right
tape.
now, so.
That's.
What's that one song? Hippopotamus for Christmas?
No, what?
Here you go. I don't have to do the hippopotamus.
I don't know what that means.
But it's how you count the 5 lit.
Oh, okay.
So, 5 notes, even the space.
Oh my god.
Because it has 5 syllables.
Oh, okay.
What is going
There's
on?
also university.
There's been like
Oh, you play
total
lacrosse?
like at the
Yeah.
same
Do you know
time
practice?
there's been like 4 Game Pigeon games going on.
I've known them for very long time.
I've never watched it.
Yeah, why do you turn everything into competition?
Alright, turn around.
Oh, me?
Yeah.
You can only cancel one of
We didn't cancel more than one.
like if there's 2x plus 1s on top and then an x plus 1 on the bottom.
Oh, yes, one of those can cancel out one on the bottom. But if you
yeah,
have,
because if you multiply it, it'd just be x plus 1 squared. And then
Correct.
if you just okay, yeah.
but if you have like an x in the numerator and x in the denominator, you can reduce those. And if you have an x plus 1 in the numerator and an x plus 1 in the denominator, you can cancel those also if you want.
I'm just saying like this, if there's 2x plus 1s.
Yeah, it only cancels out once.
Okay. Reddit.
0.
Yeah.
No, 0%. X squared plus 9, minus 12 plus 1. Crap. Of course.
0 is a valid answer.
Sure.
Okay.
If you get 0 over some other number that's not 0, then it will have to be 0. And also 0 can just be an answer anyway.
Yeah.
Four x outside of x plus 3 over x plus 3 minus
here.
Diego, what's your March next year?
Probably base. I honestly think at this point he'll just like give it to me.
You still have to try out on it.
I know, but like not to be rude to everyone else, but I kind of feel like I got the best chance.
I mean, you never know when the freshmen or next
I don't
year's
think they're gonna give a. I don't think they're gonna give a base.
Well, Ben's trying to get base. Sophie's trying to get her. Miriam's trying to get base.
I think it's just Ben, Miriam, and
Who's other people? I think Luis wants it.
I thought he wanted Sarah.
If he wanted it less, I don't think he wants.
I don't think Bruce is gonna keep me in pit. I mean, if I don't want to. I just wanted to do it this year because Marimba. I never did Marimba. I guess you're right. You never know. Plus, we haven't even done like just regular chair auditions, which is like in a month. I thought MFA was at the end of April, so I was confused with the date of the concert. But turns out it was March
It's March 30th.
second. I'm excited. I got like $200 left, and they still have me put in some football games.
My parents, every time I do the CPAC installations and uninstallations, I ask one of my parents or one of my friends, and they'd say, I'd rather just give you the money than do it with you.
Some nice people have actually done it for me. Like outside my family, which is nice. I basically raised like $1,000 with just my family and I, and like the CPACs at the games, it's like the most fun. And you got paid so much. It's crazy sometimes. PEMDAS, right? If it's like 6 times -1 squared, you square the -1 first, and then multiply. Okay. It's gonna just be 6. It's just 4. Alright.
Once you stop with that.
Did you, on 8, did you get -5?
That's what I got.
Oh, just too good. Let's go, Thompson.
Jesus, the worst spot. Why? I'm almost.
-5.
Good job.
Are you already done?
No.
Sounds like he's on question 8.
All, I've done
Diego's already passed that.
everything up to 8 and 14.
Well, Diego's not the mark that we're aiming for here.
I'm aiming for Mr. Townsend. Well, not like
What?
literally, but
What?
like I'm aiming for your level of
What is going on?
mathematical geniusness.
I mean, yeah, I think most of us are, but
Well, you're not. You're aiming for cut pong genius.
what are you talking? I'm trying. I have an 100 in this class right now. I'm
Me
actually
too.
trying.
Me too. Because I did the homework.
Yeah, I did the homework, but I got a
Yeah,
30 on the
Both of you
quiz
have
too.
100. One of you is good at cup pong.
Oh, that's it.
Oh, that
You're good at
counts.
cup pong? You're good at cup pong?
Yeah.
Look,
I'm cut pong grandmaster.
Oh my god.
look, I'm actually like,
Platinum level.
I want to get a good grade, and I like actually want to learn rather than learning something, then getting so sleep deprived I forget it in half a week.
Well, if you did your work now instead of cut pong, then you
I
wouldn't have
am
to stay
working.
up.
You see this?
Maybe you should stop using it.
I'm sorry, Diego.
They're probably more of a distraction than cup pong.
I'm not.
Sorry.
Weren't you supposed to be in upperclassmen? You're teasing a sophomore?
How did you?
Gosh. Yeah, an upper
Wait,
class.
yeah, that's
Mr. Thompson, but AP does not exist for.
AP what?
Eight.
Does not exist, cause I don't think it would be,
Six.
but I'm confused.
-5, huh?
I still didn't hear your question.
Would AP be, does not exist question? Cause you can take, you can just
-3
take an
minus
X out of
3.
both, factor a single X.
Look, this is what I did.
No, let me just show you what it is.
Question 18?
Eight.
So -3 minus
Oh, 8,
3 is
okay.
-6.
Cause if you,
How did you get that?
Oh.
that's,
Wait.
I think how Diego
just
did it,
factor
but
out
you can
X.
just take an X
I
out of
did.
both of these at the
Yeah.
start, and then those cancel,
Okay.
and then that's 0, and then this up here would be 24.
No, but if you only take out an X and then you plug in -3, you're still gonna get 0
X minus 2.
times something over 0. You're still
Okay, negative
indeterminate.
5. You're
form.
right. I that was just a dumb mistake.
Okay,
That's
that's
usually
my
what
fault.
gets me.
I
Just dumb mistakes.
forgot to take out
Even
that
if I
X
read
at
it
the
out.
top.
Yeah, so like if -3 is making the numerator and denominator 0, you really need the x plus 3 factors to cancel.
Yeah.
It's good if you get the x to cancel too, but the x plus 3 is what has to cancel before it'll work.
Okay.
You got 2 for 12, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Can you just guess them,
Me? I just think.
It's things.
I'm more analytical than creative.
It's like
You're like,
weird.
I think more in like actual numbers.
Is 9 14?
9? Yeah.
Johnson, did you get?
Yeah. Yes.
50, I got 5 for 14. Is that correct?
Yep.
Okay.
You got 5 for 14?
Yeah. It
What'd
ended
you
up
get?
as negative 50 and
Does not exist. D&E.
What?
I didn't get anything.
What is 14?
It actually did.
14 is the limit as x approaches -5 of 10x squared plus 50x.
6 for 15. Yes. My phone is blowing up with Cup Pong. And like the app is just breaking. There are like 5 games going on at the same time.
What'd you get for an answer?
I got does not exist, but they got 5 or something.
I got 5 too.
On question like 9, where there's just a bunch of numbers and stuff, is it fair to just start factoring instead of plugging 2 in? Or probably
Well,
shouldn't?
the problem is you might be wasting your time.
Yeah.
If you plug in 2 and you end up with 3/7,
Mhm.
then 3/7 is your answer. And if you spend all that time factoring it,
Did you get
you're still going to figure out that it's 3/7, but
get 2 for
That's what I
16?
did wrong.
it's going to take you more time.
Yeah. I didn't.
So I'm getting 4, 5,
I drew my line
6,
the wrong
and
way.
2.
I canceled
Oh.
out x plus 5 and x minus 5.
Oh.
Sometimes I just like miswrite plus as a 4. I like write 4 instead of plus. It's a problem.